Unemployed and Afraid acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this episode on and of the land where you, the listener, are tuning in from. We would like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and extend our respect to any First Nations, Aboriginal, and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today, acknowledging that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Welcome to Unemployed and Afraid, a podcast that explores the glorious mess of building your own business with the people doing it. I'm your host and fellow business builder, Kim Curtin. Thank you for being here. Let's get into some good, honest, small business chat. Hello, business builder. As always, it is an absolute honour to have your ears and for you to have chosen this podcast, Unemployed and Afraid, as your inspiration, your connection point, your sidekick on all things small business building. And particularly in this, our first ever mini-series, where I'm bringing you a personal insight into the building of an online course, my online course, as maybe you've thought about doing one yourself and probably have as many questions and unknowns as I do. So hopefully by doing this, it will give you the inspo and info you need to help you get there successfully. So in the first episode of this mini series, I shared with you exactly what I'm creating, which is in short, an online course to teach small business owners how to build a big podcast for their brand. And I also shared with you all the things I'm challenged by in how to go from this concept to a successful course. Part 2 was all about the build. What should we be thinking about in terms of designing a structure that lands for an audience, the digital customer experience, and loads of technical tips that were covered by Tess of Digital Moves. What a legend she is, who knows all about the Squarespace course's digital product, which is a vCore integrated offering on Squarespace, which is where I have my websites for my work and of course this pod. And last episode, I told you exactly how I'm approaching my content builds, my early pricing considerations, some of the new challenges that have come up through the process of developing the course and developing this podcast to take you behind the scenes. Real podcast creation inception with this one and all the learnings I've had along the way. In this episode today, it's time to talk about considerations on how to get it out there. When I first started this mini-series for you, honestly, I thought I might be pretty well ready to launch my course at this stage and be talking about specific marketing approaches. Well, let me tell you, listener, I underestimated completely exactly how much thinking has been required and is required in this and in what I'm developing. And so I'm not there yet, but each seemingly backward step in this process has been the most wonderful learning, which is 100% how we should approach the building of anything, and particularly an online course, as every piece of knowledge, every piece of thinking is only making it better. But as you're about to hear in this episode, it is never too early to think about marketing, as much of it is in the establishment of your ideal audience through the validation of concept. And this is just one of the things you're about to hear in this insightful chat with Mia Fileman of Campaign Del Mar, as well as hearing about setting yourself realistic expectations, making your offering clear and convertible, which is not convertible like the car, it's like convert-able, which I'm going to try and make a thing, the value of social proof, falling in love with your owned media assets, the best methods for course awareness, and why you need to fall in love with marketing if you're not already. Us small business folks, we do tend to go it alone much of the time, but there is just so much goodness to be gained by asking for help and sharing your concerns and collaborating with others. So I'm doing just that for both of us, listener, because you know we are all about the real feels and the honest chats in this pod, and today's episode delivers you just that. You will love and feel empowered by the wisdom in this episode, so let's get right into it. I'm here with Mia Fileman, founder of Campaign Del Mar, global marketing strategist, and the real Emily in Paris. God, I missed that show. Can I come back? Campaign Del Mar is a strategic and creative marketing training agency for founders and teams that's proven to build brands and provide incredible value to their partners. Some of what Mia does is help business owners and brands to go from idea to execution, create marketing campaigns that convert, find a balance between strategy and tactics, reduce the overwhelm that comes from not feeling expert enough, I know that one, prioritize your efforts amongst constant shiny new tactics and algorithm changes, which don't we love, and enjoy marketing again because, let's be real, all of us underestimate exactly how much time and effort needs to be spent on marketing. Besides having earned the nickname the Campaign Lady, Mia is an expert marketing strategist and widely published writer for publications including Social Media Examiner, Mumbrella, Marketing Mag, Smart Company, and Better Marketing. And she also has an awesome podcast called Got Marketing. So make sure to follow that one once you finish this episode. You'll love her hard hitting, no BS marketing expertise honed by 20 years in the industry. And now as a full time trainer, mentor, and course creator. As a fellow small business human who also supports other small businesses to create incredible marketing and to flourish, I couldn't think of anyone better to pick the brain of about what it takes to market an online course. Mia, welcome to Unemployed and Afraid.
Oh my God, that was the best intro ever. Thank you. So good.
You are so welcome. I really enjoy actually doing those for people because of that face that you just made. Like, hell yeah, I'm awesome.
Yeah, it's just the perfect way to start a podcast, like so pumped up.
We love it and we love to be pumped up. We get to know you before we get into it, just so the listener can get a bit of a vibe on who are you in your zoo? How would your best mate describe you?
Opinionated, no bullshit, loud, and just really passionate, just so passionate about everything.
Well, these sound like fantastic traits for a podcast, so I'm pretty happy about this. Give me a little bit of your backstory because, being a fellow small business human, I'm also so interested in this area of your life. How did you end up in business for yourself and specifically with Campaign Del Mar?
Yeah, so I started in corporate. I'm a corporate escapee, like many people. I started in big brands, so Kraft. Then I went over to Big, the stationery and lighter company, came back and worked for L'Oreal. So brand management was where I started, and I did about a decade in that. Then I moved over to agency land because I wanted social and digital experience. And then I met a very sexy helicopter pilot, just absolutely like piercing blue eyes, just 6'3". And that just changed everything, Kim. And he was like, "How do you feel about moving to Toowoomba?" I was like, "Oh, I guess I'm going to Toowoomba." So that was the push I needed to start my own business. I always knew I would run my own business. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. That passion is definitely there. And so that was 12 years ago.
What an interesting story. And I knew that we were going to have so much to talk about. Even being in agency land, I understand the pace, having been the media side of agency land, and just the pressure and the growth that you experience through that, and the understanding of media and media strategies that comes from that experience. So, yeah, I can see why you've been so successful into your own business. What was it like to then move away from that energy and kind of sit there and start to build your own thing from the ground up? Where did you start?
I think you start with one client and then it just sort of goes from there, and started from my dining room table. And then before long, you need the first employee and then you need the second employee. And you never actually stop to think, did I actually mean to run an agency across 3 states with a team in each state, or did I just sort of go with it? And it was when I started to have my children that I decided actually running a traditional agency with the lifestyle that I have as a defense spouse, where we move every 2 to 3 years, made zero sense. But I somehow just went with it because I'm ambitious and I was like, oh, there's growth opportunity there, or we can open an office here. We've got demand. We've got clients here now. There's a great manager that I can put in that office. So I just sort of went with it. But when I actually stopped to consider what I really wanted, it wasn't that. I never saw myself as an agency director. I definitely saw myself as a business owner. And so I reimagined my business and made it completely online 3 years ago. And that's where Campaign Del Mar started. And now we are a training organization. That's what we do, training and mentoring. We are not an agency in the sense that you can outsource your work to us.
Oh, I love to hear about that evolution. Flexibility is one of my primary objectives in life. I want to be able to move and go wherever I can. I'm
Yeah.
not a defense spouse, which is the first time I've heard that as a I love that you've even campaigned your partnership. That's brilliant. And that's, not my reason for moving. I tend to move to new places when energy requires it. I feel like I need a little bit of a shake up. I've been
Mm.
Tassie, regional Tassie, Hobart. I'm in the Sunshine Coast at the moment, Sydney, Melbourne, lots of little mini moves in the middle there. And I think, that flexibility to be able to let your business thrive and grow is, yeah, it's inspiring to hear that you're focusing on that area, and what's come out of it is really interesting as well. So, like I said, when I started, I knew that you were going to be absolutely the right person to ask questions to about marketing an online course. I've seen recently a lot of fantastic marketing from yourself about this area, and what needs to happen, misconceptions. So, my list of questions is long. So, let's get into some of them and see where we go. So, as you already know, because we chatted a bit up front, and you've heard all of my bits and pieces, I'm creating my own online course. And now this was an idea that I think I mentioned this in the first part of this mini series, but Odette Barry is actually the person who gave me this idea. I was talking to her about branded podcasts and how so many things go wrong in the strategy and ideation phase of this. And we were talking about it extensively. And she said, "Do you teach this anywhere? Because this is really valuable information that people could use in order to not make big mistakes and end up doing something that costs a lot of time and effort and energy for no return." And that's how I've ended up here creating this course. It's self paced, it's on demand. And yeah, naturally, I have a million questions about how on earth I'm going to get it out there. But before that, I want to get in the mind of the consumer a little bit when it comes to online courses. So, what do you think is the biggest barrier for a course creator to overcome with a potential student?
Probably the biggest thing is that online courses are a hard sell. People don't actually want any more online courses. And I'm not saying this to deter people. Well, I am a little bit because we are seeing a proliferation of online courses, but I want any aspiring online course creators to go into this eyes wide open. So what do I mean by that? So online courses as an industry really took off pre-pandemic and then during the pandemic when everyone was stuck at home, travel was restricted, and small businesses were really, really hurting. Then it made a lot of sense to upskill during that time with an online course. And a lot of education is moving online. We're seeing that with educational institutions like universities and TAFEs. Now, however, what we have as a result of that is this proliferation of online courses. The online course completion rate sits at about 15%. That is woeful. Okay. So people are buying online courses, they're enrolling in online courses, and they are not finishing them. And as a result, they have this pile of unfinished courses that is making them not want to do any more online courses. So that's the first thing that we need to tackle as course creators is how do we get people to even buy into the idea that the solution is an online course? What do people actually want? They want a problem to their solution. And often that is just do it for me. Hey, you know how to create a branded podcast, Kim. Can't I just pay you to create my branded podcast? And that is the perfect solution, except for the cost. What is the cost of getting Kim to do that for you? You know, she's got this credible experience doing this. Same with me. I have 21 years of campaign experience for some of the world's biggest brands. There is a massive barrier to entry to get me to create your campaign for you. I also just don't do that work anymore. And so the only way to work with me is through an online course. But we first need to sell in that idea that the perfect solution for you is learning how to do it yourself. Whereas people don't really want to do that. I don't want to know how it happened. I don't want to do it myself. I don't have time. I've sat in too many online courses and had to go through too many modules that don't specifically appeal to me. I just want it done for me.
That's an incredibly important point. And might I just add one of my own personal toxic traits, which is the volume of webinars I sign up to that I then go, yep, I'm going to attend that. And then it's okay, I'm going to watch the replay. And that I never watch the replay. I've even gone so far as to purchase the replay of live conferences that I couldn't attend and go, yep, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to block out a couple of days and I'm going to watch every single one of them. So that does build up. And I really do appreciate that pressure that you get behind you where you feel like you're not achieving something, particularly when those online courses are for your business, when you have so many desires and ambitions and things you want to achieve. It's something that I feel every day. It's like if I could only just get to all of these online courses, I would be straight up killing it. if only I could get to those courses. So that's a really interesting point. Going in eyes wide open into an online course creation generally is probably one of my favorite things I've ever heard. And it's the exact way that I feel about anybody who wants to create a podcast is go in eyes wide open because you have quite literally zero idea how much hell it's going to bring you and how much time and effort it's going to take to do it really well, regardless of how fantastic the outcome is at the end. So, what do you find then is the most successful step that somebody who still wants to go down that path and wants to explore it? Now, and I'll pre-frame this by saying, I think the art of creating an online course before it even goes out to a consumer, I think there's something really special in it. And this has been my experience. I've actually been validating some of my own skill set through the process and getting some of the things that I do so innately out of my head into a process and into something. It's becoming very valuable for other areas. So that's something I'm finding really interesting about this process, how it could go into a keynote, how it could go into a workshop, how it could go into an incredibly interesting blog post, just something small. So I kind of want to think about more generally, not necessarily the end result, but also the process of it. So let's go back to kind of the first thing that we should do for those who feel ambitious enough to put something out there. How do we approach getting out there? What would be your first step?
The first thing you need to do is validate whether anyone is going to be interested in that course at all. What I see a lot of is I want to launch an online course because I'm a photographer and I don't want to go out and shoot campaigns anymore. I want to work from home. I want location freedom. I want passive income. I want these things. So I'm going to take everything that I know and I'm going to package it up into a photography course. That's great. That's important. Passion is so important. You have to love what you do and you have to be excited about it. But I want you to imagine marketers just love graphs. Okay. So I just want you to imagine for a moment a graph and it's the Venn diagram, which is the overlapping circles. So that's in one circle is what you want. And then in another circle, what do people want? What does your ideal customer want? Do they want to learn about photography? Is there a market for a photography course? And who are the competitors in that market that already exist? Because what I also see a lot of is throwing on the pile. There is a million Instagram marketing courses, and there are some really big brands offering really good, really affordable courses in Instagram marketing. If you are going to launch a new course on helping people to grow on Instagram, how are you going to differentiate yourself? And do not come at me with oh, you do you, boo. Just ignore your competitors. Stay in your own lane. I'm sorry, but I live in the real world of real world market economics. That's not how economics works. There is not enough for everybody. That is just not how markets work. Every single day, small businesses are closing their doors because there's not enough customers for their products. And that's because of a very low level of differentiation. They have a competitor who's doing it better, who's doing it cheaper, who is more well known. So, first thing to do is to figure out whether there is demand. Without a need, you don't have a product, So, it doesn't matter how much you want it until you actually pick up the phone and speak to people that represent your ideal audience and ask them if they would buy this, how much would they pay for this? You don't actually know whether your online course has legs. So that is exactly where I would start. I would think about, okay, who do I want to serve? Who represents my ideal customer as the person who's going to enroll in this online course? Find 20 of those people and talk to them. You don't have to pay a market research firm. You don't need to have expensive questionnaire software. Just get on the phone with them and ask them whether they would actually buy this, how much they would pay for it, what length, what format, and then really validate whether there is a demand for this. And one of the best ways to do this is to actually pre-sell it before you've built it, which I do every single time I launch an online course. I have 3. And with our email marketing program, which is our best-selling course, over 180 marketers and business owners have purchased that. The first time we sold it, we just threw up a landing page, which you can do in a platform like Squarespace in just minutes. I'll say minutes. Not everyone's a professional marketer and they can't throw a landing page together in seconds, but minutes. And then put it out to market and see how many people actually register their interest through a wait list or through even a deposit is a nice way to get some skin in the game so that you can actually see whether people want this. Everything is theoretical until we launch it. Everything.
I absolutely love that. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to have an end result and know where it's heading and underestimate or potentially overestimate what needs to happen to get from A to B. But
Mm.
that art of the pre-sale, it's something I've seen mentioned somewhere else that I can't remember now. It probably was you mentioning this in your marketing, which really does work on me. And yeah, I can absolutely see a lot of value in that. And just understanding that if it doesn't go ahead, like it's okay. It's absolutely okay. You can start over as many times as you have to. I mean, I'm on business number 7 here now, and it's not because all of them were failures, but some of them were, and it's very okay to put them down and reinvent yourself and just move on to the next thing. And so I always really like that advice. I'm thinking about those 20 people, and I'm thinking about picking up the phone and calling people, and I'm thinking about my listeners doing the same. And so they're sitting there on that call and they're going to have to pitch their course in, 25 words or less, or as we love to say in radio, more specifically in an elevator ride. So before they even get to that step, what would you suggest in crafting a really positive elevator pitch for your course to be able to quickly get the help and feedback that you need from people?
Yeah, just to clarify, that call shouldn't be a pitch at all. It should really just be a chat. Hey, you are a small business owner. What is the most challenging thing that you find with your marketing? What's frustrating you? And what have you tried? What has worked? What hasn't worked? It's really just asking questions that at that stage is really helping you to build the course. You should not be building a course, any modules, any of the slides, none of it, no, not a single video without first having spoken to a handful of customers about exactly what they want that course to cover. Do not go and create that in a silo and then, shoehorn that to your market. Build it with your customers. The first time we ran Campaign Classroom, which is our signature program, we ran it live and we had actually only built the first few modules. We had a rough plan of what the rest of the modules will be, but we actually used that first cohort to figure out what questions they were asking in week 1. So then week 3 sort of started to take shape. We built it with our audience because then it's going to appeal to them. And then after the first cohort, I then went away and created all the videos and all the modules. And it was those, on-demand videos. So that's what I recommend. In terms of then when we get to the pitch, how do you write an elevator pitch? I want you to imagine for a minute that we are talking about a box of cereal, and I want you to tell me what is on the box. The box doesn't say a healthy and delicious cereal that your family will enjoy. The box says cornflakes, Wheat Bix. It says all bran. What I'm seeing all the time in small business marketing is people tripping over themselves to explain the benefit and who it's for and who it's by and overlooking what the freaking hell it is. It is a course on marketing campaigns. It is a course to help you build branded podcasts. It doesn't have to be more elaborate than that. Start with that and then move on to the who it's for and what the benefits are. But you will be so surprised, Kim, how many people fail to just tell me what it is straight off the bat. And since the average time spent on a website is 6 seconds, you need to be able to communicate that really, really quickly. And I see a lot of people wanting to be very clever and creative in the naming of their courses or the description of their courses. And I actually think you should just keep it as really straightforward as possible. Our course is called Campaign Classroom. It is what it is. That's what it is. You come to the classroom to learn about campaigns. How do we take it back to that? The most simplest form of messaging.
I mean, I'm writing a million notes because I have a million follow-up questions for you right now. You can probably tell. Thank God for Remarkables. So I can write them down and keep the infinite scroll. Thank you to the person who invented that as well. But I actually want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, which was your first course foray, which was live. Now, I must say, me personally, the thought of running and selling, first of all, and then running a live course without having pre-planned it to some degree makes me very itchy, very nerve-wracked because But which is ironic because I'm not necessarily a planner. I don't forward plan all of my conversations here. I don't know exactly where they're going to go, but I have a structure around that. So can I just say congratulations to you on that? But more generally, how did you then manage the process of getting people into that in terms of finding the causes and the reasons to ask people to come and join you without fully knowing exactly where you were heading in the course content?
So I knew what the course was going to cover. So my program is on how to create an integrated marketing campaign. And I've created integrated marketing campaigns for 20 years. So I know exactly the steps that you need to create an integrated marketing campaign. And that's what the course is. Step one through to, however many steps you need to actually end up with the campaign at the end. What I didn't know was exactly which of the 20 brainstorming tools that I use were going to resonate the most with the audience. Whether they needed a worksheet on something or whether we could just chat about it. Did they need a template or did they need a graph? Like that is the level of detail that I didn't have, which I absolutely now have. Module 3 has its, perfect list of tools and templates and worksheets to help you absolutely nail that module. But I didn't have that in my first live course. But I definitely had, if you can imagine, let's go back to a landing page. I definitely had enough to sell the course in terms of what exactly it was going to cover, what were going to be the deliverables, each module was going to cover.
Did you ever think, and I feel like I'm going to know the answers to this, and this could be my people pleasing coming out, which I think a lot of listeners will relate to. We always want to see happy customers, right? But did you ever have any fear about negative feedback through that process?
Oh, definitely. Because I was transitioning from a very corporate background to a online business and small business, and it wasn't my background. I didn't know how entrepreneurs, I mean, I was an entrepreneur, but I don't represent every single one of them, how they were going to react. And I think my biggest fear, if I can name it, was that integrated marketing campaigns are too complicated for small business owners. We just want to know what to post on Instagram today. We just want to know, how to make a good reel that's going to build our audience on Instagram. You talking about integrated marketing campaigns, that is not relevant to small business audiences. And I had to reconcile with that for a long time. And what really helped me push through that was the quantity of small business owners saying to me, I'm posting on Instagram, I'm making the reel, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm spinning my wheels and I am not actually achieving any of this growth. What am I doing wrong? And it's like, because you're not running campaigns. And I know that because every professional marketer and every leading brand in the world runs marketing campaigns. So I made it my mission to demystify and break down campaigns so that they were approachable and manageable for a small business audience. And it's only now that I have over 100 students who've launched campaigns that I can sit back and go, yes, campaigns are for small businesses. I've proven that. But I needed to work through that for sure.
Did you find as well that just the term integrated marketing campaign, now that's like, I mean, I understand innately exactly what you mean by that because I've worked in a fellow industry. But for the small business owner who doesn't actually realize that they need that thing yet because they don't fully understand what that is yet. Now, you know where I'm going with this question. I actually have the same issue because people put podcasts in one category. And yes, they're all podcasts, but there is a fundamental difference between a creator led podcast, which is what I do, and a branded podcast, which is a podcast that is essentially being crafted with a brand voice behind it, getting themselves in there. The good ones are just getting themselves in there in a really subtle way. And they're crafting the conversation to own the content and be part of something a little bit bigger than themselves. So even having to explain to someone, I mean, that just took me like 30 seconds of our valuable time to even try to draw a little bit of a sense of what a branded podcast is in relation to what a creator-led podcast is. Kind of same thing with marketing campaigns, right? Integrated marketing campaign. That takes a little bit of explaining for someone who's never heard of it or somebody who's never built one. How did you approach that challenge and that hurdle of helping people understand how valuable what you know is?
Well, my full-time job is explaining to people what a campaign is. So I will say that and I will own that. I do have to spend a lot of time explaining what it is because no one seems to wake up in the morning and say, "Do you know what I need? Do you know what I really need? I need a marketing campaign. That's what I
So
need."
weird.
And this is a symptom of the industry. Our industry loves to create new terms. The jargon that just exists in online marketing, digital marketing is just next level. And then I believe the word launch was invented to haunt me because on a daily basis, I get people coming to me saying, "What is the difference between a launch and a campaign?" And I grit my teeth and then somehow and like often quite smarmy say to them, "Well, you will not see launch in any marketing textbook. Like launch is a verb." So, a launch, we have made it into a noun. I don't get that. Really, what you do to launch a product or a service is you build a campaign to launch it. And so I spend a lot of time doing that. But also, can I just say, I realized that I am a marketer who offers tier 2, tier 3 level of education to marketers and small business owners. I don't offer marketing 101. And so actually calling my course Campaign Classroom and owning the word campaign actually brought me closer to my all ideal target audience because my ideal target audience already know what campaigns are. And that is actually why it's so important to tell me what is on the cereal box because automatically then I'm cutting out people who are not right for this program, which is people that don't even know what a campaign is, let alone why they should spend 9 weeks learning with me to build one. So that is why it's so important to zero in on that messaging. By calling it Campaign Classroom, there are people who go, "I know what a campaign is. I know how valuable they are. I just don't know how to do it." Or I am doing it, but I'm probably not doing it as well as I could be. So I'm going to enroll and do it with the support of Mia.
Yeah, brilliant. I think you've perfectly brought us back to your earlier point, which is around expectation setting and patience and understanding that if you have an offering that is going to be valuable to some people, putting it in that expectation center of it probably isn't going to be a high volume of people. So, to your point, it's not necessarily going to be the I want to break free, flexible lifestyle, passive income headline that is fed definitely to us through a lot of the, I think you might have said this in an email to me, a lot of the megaphoners, a lot of the course creator megaphoners who be like, this is the thing that's going to create, is going to make the big difference to you. And it's exactly the same thing with podcasts. I think everybody gets on the mic and then goes like, yeah, I've got a podcast out there. And then it's like, if I had a panel here, I would insert a cricket noise. Like, no one's going to be interested in it unless they're hearing about it and you're marketing it every day and you're actually providing value within that content that you're creating. So, yeah, you've kind of brought me back to that expectation setting in terms of whenever we're creating an online course, if that's something that we're choosing to do, if you're listening to this podcast, you might have something in mind. It is about understanding that it could be quite a high effort upfront for a fairly low return. And that doesn't mean that you've failed. It just means that you've got something to keep working on and you've got something to keep going with and not, throwing out the baby with the bathwater and moving on completely. And I want to keep in I guess, the heads of those people who are, okay, I'm going to try and I'm going to put something out there. And I want to talk a little bit about pre-existing audience. So this has been my long segue of expectation through to, okay, how do we get something out there? For those of us who don't have a large following, and that is most of us, if we're real, I'm talking, 10, 20, 30,000 or more on Instagram or, 100,000 on TikTok if it's an easier engagement to get at the moment. But for those who don't have a pre-existing audience, what would you suggest in terms of marketing a course? Where are some of the channels or mediums that you would go to?
Yeah. So the first thing I would do is start to build that audience and start to build that community. When I launched my online courses, I had 50 Instagram followers. So really start to use content marketing to build that audience and then manage your expectations. This notion of build it and they will come, as you've said, Kim, is just absolutely fiction. And so we had 5 people enroll in the first intake of Campaign Classroom. And we reached out to those 5 people and individually invited them to join the program. So we're like, "Hey, I found you on LinkedIn. You look like someone that would really benefit from this. Can we have a conversation about whether this is the right fit for you? It is the pilot program. Are you willing to go on this journey with us? And we had 5 people say yes. And I will never forget those 5 people that took a plunge with us when we were nobody from nowhere with no audience, no social proof, no credibility, no 100 5-star reviews on Google. So don't just wait for people to come to you, find them. And that has never been easier to do. And yeah, just understand that we all have to start from somewhere. Every single time I market my online courses, it gets just a little bit easier because I have more credibility. I have more happy customers and graduates who can evangelize on my behalf. I have more social proof. I get better at doing it each time. So it is very much a journey. And you've got to love that journey as well. You know, you can't just be doing it because you think it's going to make you wildly successful without working. That's not true. And so people who go into it for the wrong reasons, they quickly jump out of it because they realize that it is a lot more work and effort and just experimentation than they were prepared to do in the first place.
Well, firstly, congratulations on those 5 people because
Yeah.
that is fantastic. Like, just getting one person is a bloody miracle, and you got 5, and that's bloody fantastic. And it takes guts to put yourself out there in that way, you know, to cold email or cold DM people and invite them in. It's, you know, there's a lot about this small business gig. I talk about this all the time that strips us back to absolute bare bones in terms of our vulnerability and putting ourselves out there. And I think it's a wonderful story to have shared that that's what you did to get those people through the door and to give you a go. And that in reality is what it takes. It's not going to be doing an online course for how to do Instagram reels. And then all of a sudden you've got 20,000 followers the next week and you're going for it. So, you know, I think that ethos of we all have to start somewhere and we have to suck in public and we have to suck to other humans and feel awkward and embarrassed is just like the whole reason this podcast exists and is everything that I'm about because it's we just get nowhere without being really awful at some stuff for a while. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
And actually, come to think about it, those 5 people that did enroll were amongst the 20 people that we spoke to when we were building the concept for the course. And we were like, hey, what do you need? Is this right for you? What would you be prepared to pay? And so we already knew what they wanted because we'd asked them. And then I was able to go back to them and go, oh, hey, Carla, you know how we spoke a few months ago? I actually have built something as a minimum viable product. Are you willing to go on this journey and test it out for us and let us know what you think? Now, the most important thing, I think, well, there's so many most important things, so I shouldn't say that. One of the most important things when you first launch your course is not to make it free. There is a feeling that you just want to get feedback, you just want to get testimonials, you just want to run it for the first time and see how it goes. Please don't run it for free. That is not going to be an accurate representation of someone's experience of it. Of course, everyone's going to say it was fabulous if it was free. People do need to have skin in the game. I also wouldn't recommend discounting it within an inch of its life, like dropping the price by 50%, because again, you're not going to get the right people and you're not going to get the right experience. So think about what the program is worth, what you ideally want to charge for it. And the first intake can be slightly cheaper, but run it like you would run it normally so that you can get really good feedback from the first intake, from the first launch.
I feel really passionate about prestige pricing. And so I'm
Mm,
really grateful that you brought that up because so many of us are afraid to put what we're worth and what our work is worth, what our product is worth on the bottle, a
mm,
proverbial bottle in this sense. And
mm.
there is so much psychology behind the high value product. And in terms of your completion rate, I wonder, I mean, I don't think we'd ever be able to find this correlation, but I wonder if we could actually see for those who paid a premium, did they actually complete it in more past 15%? Because that number's really haunting me. But there's certainly something to be said for prestige pricing.
Yeah, sometimes in the past, I have given a complimentary spot to people in my program, sometimes with a contra. Oh, you do this for me and I'll give you a spot in Campaign Classroom. I don't do that anymore because those people don't turn up because they don't value it. And they're like, oh, sorry, I just got really busy. And they're like, oh, I'll check back in later and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's I only have 25 people in my program. So someone not coming is not a great sign. And that's a spot I could have filled with somebody else. So, but you don't know these things before you start. You think, I know, I'll just go in cheap, then it'll be more appealing. And then lots of people will want to buy it. So then I'll get lots of great reviews and testimonials. And then that will help me sell it the next time. That sounds logical. I agree that that sounds logical. The theory of that is sound, but the reality is actually quite different. Pricing is a positioning strategy. So if you go out to market with a $500 course, that is a very, very different consumer to a $3,000 consumer. And my course is $3,200. So selling my course to $500 consumers, they are just not the right people to do Campaign Classroom over the 9-week program.
That's so interesting. Did you find that change? I mean, I think you mentioned earlier that it was a little bit cheaper when you first started. So did you have much of a percentage jump as you grew and got better and evolved the course and put more content in, or was it kind of a slow burn?
Yeah. So all these mistakes that I'm telling you, I've made. So I'm speaking from experience. I was the person that made my $3,000 course a $500 course in the first intake. And I was the one that had my bottom bit. So yeah, don't do that. Don't do a Mia.
I love that. Maybe that's your next campaign. Don't do a Mia.
Yeah, just like really heed my advice, right? Just because I made all these mistakes.
That's how we learn. Don't worry, there's plenty of my mistakes out there that listeners are very familiar with now. Can we go back to your point around social proof? Because this is something I've seen you talking about in your marketing efforts lately, and I've been innately fascinated by it. And I want to approach it from two parts, which is what is social proof? What is the value of it? And for the person listening who doesn't have any social proof, and it even applies to me for my course right now, the social proof that I have exists within a consultative environment, not the person doing the course or the course content itself. So take me through the journey of social proof. What is it? And what do you do if you don't have it?
Yeah, okay, so social proof is a fancy way of saying credibility and authority. Most commonly, that's going to be a testimonial or a review, but not only. I actually think, Kim, that you have a ton of social proof that you can leverage. We have to be a little bit clever with how we do it, especially when we're launching something new and how we can do it ethically, but also how can you leverage that consulting background and that corporate background in order to let people know that them deciding to invest with you is going to be a safe decision. It's going to be a credible decision. So there are thousands of different forms of social proof, but the reason to your first point of your question, why is it so important, is that it's the cost of doing business now. We live at a time where customers today don't trust brands and they don't trust traditional advertising. So 92% of customers are actually distrusting of traditional advertising. And so they're looking for peer to peer recommendations and that social proof to make a decision. Think about before you go and buy a fridge, you're going to jump onto choice.com and you're going to make sure that that brand and that a model of fridge has good ratings before you walk into the Good Guys and you buy it. That is absolutely how it works with courses. People are like, this looks good. The modules looks good. The price looks good. I've seen some great advertising from the brand, but has anyone done this that can actually speak about the experience? Is it worth it? Does anyone know who this chick is? And so that's where we need social proofs to motivate people to tick that box for credibility and authority. So in terms of what you can use to leverage social proof, I have on my landing page for Campaign Classroom, before we had testimonials from customers, we had testimonials from my previous background that spoke about me as a marketer. You know, Mia is a global strategic marketer. She's, very creative in her approach. So talking about you as the instructor of this course. Then I also have a section with logos where it says Mia has created campaigns on behalf of these brands, and they include brands like Witchery and L'Oreal and Maybelline. And so that's a nice way to leverage social proof. I'm also a fellow with the Australian Marketing Institute. So getting some sort of accreditation or licensing is a nice way to go about that. So the Australian Marketing Institute has a program called the Certified Practicing Marketer program. It's like a CPA accountant, but it's for marketing. And you have to apply to be given that title of a certified practicing marketer. And you have to show significant experience. And so there was a few hoops to jump. I went through that process so that I could get this CPM badge. And so that's what I mean by starting to like look at what are going to be some really great markers of authority or credibility. And then the way that I built my reputation, going back to Odette Barry, was I actually enrolled in her course, which is called Hack Your Own PR. And I learned how to create my own PR. And over the last 3 years, I've been in over 40 different media and marketing publications. And what I do is called thought leadership PR, where I exchange my knowledge in exchange for them publishing my articles. And every time I have an article published, that is another bit of social proof that I collect. So also on my website, you will see Smart Company logo, Mamma Mia logo, Social Media Examiner logo. The Guardian has, published one of my campaigns. So again, we are looking at different formats, different flavors of social proof, all about helping people to trust you.
Outstanding. I love that you brought up the logos. We are visual creatures. And so putting it into a paragraph of, I have written for publications such as with their names and their links does not land very quickly in our
Mm.
drastically reduced attention span that we have. So I think that's all wonderful advice, as is the ethically shared social proof, because, we joke about megaphoners and those who are out there saying, here's what I can do for you. And this is why I'm so great. And there's that balance between being really confident to talk about your experience and how you've been celebrated, and then saying things that just are factually incorrect and calling yourself certain titles that are factually incorrect. So I think they're both really wonderful points to bring up. So thank you for that.
I don't know if you see my Instagram stories today, Kim, but I screenshot a Facebook ad that I saw from a 7-figure megaphoner. And she had a photo of one of her customers. And the headline said, she has doubled her revenue since doing my course. And then in the text below, it says she has tripled her revenue from doing my course. So
Mm.
which one is it?
Oh dear, that makes me really cringy and a little bit icky because, yeah, and I just don't understand how people do this sort of stuff. And I know it's so common in our socially led society, but how do people sleep comfortably knowing that they're putting this out? I mean, it just blows my mind. I mean, I would be so terrified of being found out to put this shit out there. I can't believe these people exist, but clearly they do.
Oh my gosh, we could talk about this for another 45 minutes. I have so much to say on this topic. So the first thing is there's no oversight. There's no fact checking. There's no auditing. You can, as a small business owner in Australia, you can pretty much say whatever you want. Like bigger businesses, we hold to account. If they're publicly listed, they have to share their earnings and there is some insight. But I could literally get on Instagram today and say whatever, and no one will know whether it's true or not. And so the fact that there is no one sense checking this bullshit means that they can get away with it. But why would someone do that? What is motivating people to lie? Because entrepreneurs are lying. The lying is prolific. Like it's so obvious. So why are they doing that? And it's because of this little statement that we were told as children: fake it till you make it. Entrepreneurs are optimistic creatures, right? And we believe that if only we can get to here, we are going to be successful. And so if that means that we have to fake it in the beginning, then that's what needs to happen in order for people to discover how wonderful we truly are. I just need to fudge my way through it until I get to this point. And I just have real issue with that.
Yeah, I totally relate to you on this point because it makes me very uncomfortable. And yeah, particularly in my industry in podcasting, because it is it's really separate. Everything is separate. Spotify runs their own game and has their own data and analytics. Apple have their own data and analytics. The two don't talk to each other. If you're trying to go out there with a certain number, like it's proven to have been inflated with Apple's recent changes to the downloads, charts, where do they actually kind of stem from, and how do you trick it? There's a lot of, following issues where if you, pop up a little teaser and that then counts as a download, and it's like, oh, so you got a 30-second bloody episode up and it's a download. I'm sorry, but that's not engagement. Like out my industry is so in this hole of not being governed by one body that yeah, I completely relate to this stuff giving yeah, it's a challenging one.
It's a gaming of the system. There's people, I think as entrepreneurs, we are looking for shortcuts. We didn't start our businesses to go slow and do it the long way and do it the hard way. We are predisposed to wanting a shortcut. And I guess the thing that you should always come back to is, am I misleading people? Am I deceiving people? Am I being transparent and open and honest in this communication? Because I see that with podcasting as well, Kim. I know that there are podcasters who started releasing a 1 minute or a
Ugh.
2 minute podcast episode every single week because it counts towards their downloads. And then they have their bigger episodes separate to that just to game the system. And honestly, can I just say, you can build a really successful, really profitable business without any of that shady shit. And I am absolutely proof of it. I'm earning several hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I pay myself a very good salary. I do have location freedom. It has been a gut load of work to get here. However, I have not needed to do any of that to get to where I am now.
Amen. We just need more talking like this and more people willing to put in the gut load of work, which I know, listener, you totally get because you're here on this podcast with me. And, that's literally all we do all day long. And it's actually been one of the most important lessons I've actually learned through this process of building small business as well is, low and slow.
Yep.
That's how we have to take it. And I am somebody who has very low patience for things generally in life, everything. And that's been, learning that patience in business and that to celebrate those small wins. And when you see those small things start to add up and you put that effort and then you get one piece of PR in a publication, like that's huge and that's growth and that's rippling where you can't see it. And that takes guts and that takes challenge and just that takes energy and that takes hating yourself for like 6 days of the week. So yeah, really important to remember that as we go through this process. I want to get us to a couple of specifics for the person who loves marketing, which is me, but also probably the listener as well. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the areas that you see work quite well. And more specifically, I want to go old school, like marketing funnel, awareness, consideration, conversion. Where should the person with the online course be spending their time? In what kind of level? Is there a process to it? What would you do if you were starting it off today?
Yeah. So the thing I first want to say about marketing online courses is that you need to do all the things. It is one of those industries that requires a great deal of marketing because of what I said earlier on in this conversation, Kim, is that it is a harder sell. Me getting one-on-one consults or someone outsourcing to do their work for me, that can happen in one conversation. I can sit across from someone at a cafe in Darwin where I live, and after an hour, I walk away with a retainer to manage their social media or to write their blogs or do their email marketing. That can happen really quickly. That is not online business. It takes a really long time to build trust, and it takes a lot of effort to sell online courses because people are skeptical and the appetite for online courses has decreased, especially over the last 12 to 18 months. So you need all the things. So I'm not going to tell you that it's one thing versus the other. What I will tell you is how to prioritize those things. So what to do first, second, third, and last, because you will eventually need to build up to having all the funnels, having the social media accounts, having the emails, having the campaigns. You need all of it. So I believe you should start with owned channels, which is your website, your landing pages, your CRM, your lead magnets, your email list, your brand controlled channels. And the reason why you should start with owned channels is that in 2023, 2024 and beyond, the purchase decision is being made on an owned channel. They are not buying from you directly from social media. They might discover you on social media, learn about you on social media, and then they're going to click the link and they're going to go to your website. And the thing that breaks my dear marketing heart is that when I finally manage to get onto someone's website from social media, it is a spectacular letdown because that particular page or that, email or that website is not configured to convert. It's not going to sell me on the program. So start with owned channels. Be really proud of your website. Really invest time in understanding the anatomy of a high performing course landing page. Don't buy a template and fill it in. Okay. Don't do that. Use critical thinking. Everyone is using templates. And so everyone's courses sound the same and you are competing with everyone. Okay. People don't have a course for Instagram and then a course for email marketing and then a course for TikTok and then a course for LinkedIn. They pick which one they're going to do. They don't just do 4 courses at a time. So if they've picked the Instagram course and you offer a LinkedIn course, then you are not going to get that sale. So there's direct competitors and then there's substitutes. So consider that. So don't look like other people who've got online courses. After you have worked on your owned channels, then you need to focus on your evergreen or always on marketing efforts. So this is about having really clear, compelling brand messaging, having active social media accounts, regular email marketing, so regular e-newsletters to your database, regular blogs, which is going to help with search engine optimization, regular posting on social media in order to build your audience. So really then focus on those evergreen marketing foundations, which is what most people are doing. And then once you have those in place, that's when you should start focusing on your campaigns. Campaigns and always on marketing are 2 sides of the same coin. Always on marketing is what you do to keep the lights on. It's your business as usual. And campaigns are where you see real uplifts in your business. When you are ready to market an online course and you're opening up enrollments, what you need is a campaign. It's not the always on marketing. You posting on social media 5 days a week, talking about buying your online course is not going to get the job done.
You touch on email lists, which is something I'm having a little bit of a moment with at the moment. And I'm interested in, thinking about how to build them and the ethics of bringing people you communicate with into an email list and the option to unsubscribe and, just all of the tactics to build an email list. What have you seen work well in your own business or otherwise?
Yeah, the best way to build a list ethically is through a lead magnet. So a high value, and I stress the words high value, giveaway in exchange for somebody handing over their email address. Start with one lead magnet. A lead magnet does more than just get someone's email address. It also introduces them to your brand and introduces them to your offering. It could be one of the first points of interaction with you. So it's important that you impress them. And so then once you get their email list and they have submitted a form where they have given explicit consent in order to be part of your emails, then you can start regularly emailing them.
I'm a human who tends to overthink a lot of my marketing content or otherwise. So where it's going, what I'm saying, who's viewing it, what they think about it, whether or not I've just dropped into somebody's WhatsApp group and they're like, who the fuck is this chick? I think about that a lot. And I think the listener probably would too. It's just a human nature, I think, when we're running our own show and particularly when we are our business as well. I think we can really overthink that. Why do you think it's so hard for a business owner to market themselves and their offering?
Because they can't be objective about their own marketing. They can't see the forest from the trees, which is why I work with so many marketers. And that is another struggle that I've had to push through is who the fuck am I to think that I can better than other marketers to market to marketers? What makes who do I think I am? And then I realized I invested with Odette Barry, who's a marketer. She's just a specialist in PR, and I'm not a specialist in PR. And so I'm a specialist in campaigns. I'm a specialist in email marketing. So other marketers can invest in me. I needed to go and do my own courses in social media because I'm not an expert in social media marketing. So I had to push through that. So it is that objectivity that we really crave. It's so easy to give advice to somebody else, right? It's impossible for us to follow that advice ourselves. It's so easy. I have a group of people and I can be like, you should do this. But I couldn't figure that out for myself, which is why community is so important. And that's where online courses are great because you're bringing people together that can help each other. That's actually one of the biggest benefits of an online course. This is something that I talk about with my potential students when they say, yeah, look, Mia, you're great. I'd love to work with you. I just don't want to do an online course. I want to work with you one-on-one. And I'm like, I am not the keeper of all the wisdom in the world. Come along and be in a room with 20 other people who represent your target audience who are similar to you and get 20 views on what you're doing, not just my view. So, yeah,
Oh, I absolutely love that. And I think it comes back to even my opening bio on you, where we were talking about how much we struggle with being the expert. And I'm kind of putting it in quotation points, but owning that position as an expert in whatever we have spent time honing as a craft, and having this preconceived notion of, I have to have X number of awards, X number of years, X number of, like, I need to be able to stand in a room and anyone can ask me anything about this topic and I can answer them. It's like we need to have that level of confidence in our knowledge before we're willing to step up and call ourselves an expert in something. And I think it's somewhere where we don't need to. We don't need to go to that nth degree. If you've invested time, I'm not saying do an online course in how to do Instagram reels and then all of a sudden you're an expert in how to do Instagram reels. But I mean, we're really ragging on Instagram at the moment. I don't mean to. I'm not saying that that's the level of letting yourself be an expert and backing yourself to be an expert. But anything that we've put hard earned years and knowledge and guts and had skin in the game in on, I think it's okay to be called an expert and, call yourself one. But, that's me talking myself up as well.
I definitely think you need to be an expert to launch an online course, especially in 2023 when it's so competitive. There are going to be other more experienced, more qualified people than you offering a course. And so you coming in with very fresh qualifications after finishing a 6 weeks Instagram reel course is just not going to pass muster. It's often the overqualified people, though, that second doubt themselves. It's people like you, it's people like me that think, but surely there are even more experienced campaign marketers than me, even more experienced podcasters than Kim that do it. So then come back to your target audience. I am not trying to get the most experienced campaign marketers in Australia to do my course. I'm trying to get small business owners. And for them, I am absolutely the perfect person, not only because I have campaign marketing expertise, but because I am them. I am a small business owner. And so I understand their struggle and I understand how many balls they're juggling. And so the advice that I give them, the tactics that I share with them, the strategies that I teach are sustainable and practical and actionable for my small business audience. So I think there's a bit of a reframe that is required there in terms of that approach to expertise. Why am I perfectly positioned to deliver this course? And it's not just my expertise, it's also my personality. I teach the shit out of my programs because I am a big personality. Some people are just not, they don't love people as much as I love people. And so don't launch a course then if you don't love people. Play to your strength.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely it. Like, I love to present and I always have. It's something throughout my media career that, I'd sweat on it and I'd hate it and I'd overthink it and I'd practice and the whole, I can't wear anything gray because, full on arm sweat. But once I would get up there, I would just thrive and would love it. And so naturally, podcasting is a medium that I feel really comfortable in because I can kind of present and I can do that. So yeah, I think, playing to your strengths and yours being with people. And that makes a lot of sense as to why you like to do those live courses as well, as opposed to the on demand. That makes a lot of sense. It's about understanding what your strengths are. I want to give you the opportunity to share anything else that you would like me or the listener to know about the marketing of an online course, just that thing that you wish you could tell more people.
So many things. Where do we start? So
You can have a couple.
I can have a couple. Look, it's not as advertised. It is not passive income by any stretch of the imagination. Even once you've built your online course, which I have, and yes, I have recorded the videos, even though I don't love pre-recording videos, I'm much better with an audience. I have done that because, you have to think about making sure that your business is scalable and you have to bake flexibility into your offering. Even after you have built your online course, it's not set and forget. You need to update that course. You'll inevitably find that those videos need to be re-recorded within 1 or 2 years. And then if you do not market your online course, it will not sell. This idea that I'm just going to put it on Evergreen. Evergreen does not work. Okay. I have a program that you can, in theory, book into at any time of the year. The enrollments are open. We get 0 And I mean absolutely zero enrollments unless we market it. And then when we market it, we get 30, 40, 50 people enrolling in it. So the problem is not the program. The program sells just right. It's the fact that no one's going to buy it unless you're marketing it. And I then go back to my previous point about just how much marketing is required for online courses. You need to have the Instagram lives. You need to do the reels. You need the emails. You need the funnels. You need the sequences. You need to do guest podcasting. You need to do guest masterclassing. You need to have lead magnets. You have to do the live masterclasses. You have to do the live webinars. You have to do it all. The good thing is that I'm a professional marketer and I love marketing. And so this comes quite naturally to me. But if you are sitting here listening, thinking, I want to launch an online course because I want leveraged income, but I just don't really freaking love marketing that much, then please heed my advice because you will find just how much marketing is required to market an online course. So if you're a marketer, great, amazing. You're going to love it because it's pretty much all it is just marketing.
Such valuable advice for just business in general. Can I say anyone who wants to start, I mean, I talk about this all the time, but just that grass is greener approach of being in small business, like the amount of times I flirt with the LinkedIn job section to be like, what if I just went back to working in media or marketing or something? What if I just did that? Because, yeah, the volume of work required to make a successful small business at any level, it takes a lot and you have to be everywhere all at once and it's exhausting and really thankless, a lot of it as well. You get nothing. There's no dopamine hit out of most of this stuff. You don't get the exact, I'll do this thing and then I'll get a spike in this over here. It doesn't happen. And I think as whether it's an online course or just a small business in general, we have to get used to yelling out into the abyss and not seeing an immediate result and just have a whole lot of trust in the build process and what's coming. So I think you have just provided an exorbitant amount of helpful insight. I can't wait to go back and listen to this again and again and again and just take it all on board. So thank you, Mia. You've been so generous with your advice today. In our final question, I would love to know how, in return, the listener and I can support you to grow your business.
Yeah, sure. So I'd love for you to come in, hang out with us online at campaigndelmar.com. We're also across all the social media platforms because, of course, you have to be. So LinkedIn, Instagram, even TikTok. And then if you are looking to upskill in email marketing specifically, we have a program. And then if you are more advanced in your marketing journey, so you're a marketer or you're a fairly savvy business owner who's been doing it for a while, please consider Campaign Classroom.
Wonderful. I'm going to make sure to have the links to all of those points, your socials, your course, but also your great podcast as well, because we know how much I love podcasts. And if there's one thing we cannot get enough of in this world, it's good quality podcasts. So I'll absolutely have that link in there as well. Mia, again, thank you so much for spending the time with me today, for supporting me in creating my online course and also supporting the listener if it's something they're thinking about too. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much, Kim. It was a great opportunity.
Listener, if you're feeling ready to create your own course in your zone of genius, firstly, yes, go you, and let's do it together as I share with you the journey of creating my online course on how to build a big branded podcast for your small business. And I really do hope that bringing you behind the scenes, like I have here in this mini series, has helped to show you how you can build your own online course too. There's still more to share, so I suspect we may see some follow-up episodes. So keep your eyes and your ears peeled for that. I would love to know your thoughts on what we've been creating here, the course, but also this mini-series. So make sure to slide into my DMs on IG at Unemployed and Afraid and or leave the pod a review. You do know how much they mean to me. And if you're interested in learning how to create your small business a big podcast, head to goodsideofthebed.com.au and drop me your email so we can chat and you can be the first to access it. Thank you for listening to Unemployed and Afraid, the podcast for small business builders with your host, me, Kim Curtin. If you love it, you can say thanks with a star rating and a review. And of course, join the community on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Find us at Unemployed and Afraid wherever you're hanging out, and I'll see you there.